welcome back to my channel. It's Kay, and today I'm going to teach you guys all about my job as a monitor tech. I'm going to tell you how to get the job duties, what I like about the job, what I dislike, and other tips. So stay tuned. Okay, so the first thing that we do when we come in is get a report from the person before us. So if anything happened during the day, you have to relate it to the next person so that they can watch out for it. You know, for example, if you have a patient that converts from sinus to AFib, or they go into VTAC or VFib, this is like important information that you want to relay to the next person. After we give our report to the next person, like their shift is over, like we come in at 6:45 and, you know, we give our report, then they leave around 7, and then, you know, we sanitize our area. I always make sure I wipe everything down. You know, this is a hospital, so you have to make sure you wipe everything down. And then we get started on our strips. So we start doing our strips and interpreting the rhythm. So you measure the strips on the computer, on the monitor, and then you put what you think that rhythm is. You know, for example, I'll measure a strip, and if the PR is 0.21 or over, then I know that's a first degree heart block. So I'm going to put that on the paper, I'll initial it, and then after we're done with all our strips, we have the person that's in the room with us verify the strip. So they have to verify that the correct patient name and medical record number is on the strip. You know, and this is really to decrease any medical errors, because sometimes, you know, we can accidentally put the wrong sticker on the strip, and you don't want to do that because that information can go into the wrong chart. So you really want to make sure that you're verifying and you're working with the person that's in there with you. It's 2 people in the room, so you want to make sure you're working with that person to verify these strips. Okay, so it looks like sinus rhythm. The main thing that you're doing as a monitor tech is just basically making sure the patients don't die. You know, you're going to call the nurse if anything changes with the patients. You know, you get a baseline rhythm of the patient, and if anything changes beyond that, then you have to call the nurse and let them know. With a job like this, communication is very, very important, because if you forget to tell someone like something that's very important, the patient can be affected in a negative manner. So you have to make sure that you're, you know, communicating and telling the next shift the right information. You know, you have to tell them if anything critical occurred, and you also have to relay that information to the nurse during your shift. You know, so communication is a really big part of telemetry. Okay, the flu shot. Don't record my face. Okay. Okay, so these are tele leads, and this is a tele box. So basically, we put these in here, put some battery in. Okay, so it's on, and then these go on the patients, and then we put them in the system, and then they'll show up with a rhythm.
How come the wires are different colors?
because they go on different places on the patient. So this one goes in the middle of the chest. Say that when I first started as a monitor tech, I was terrified. It was me by myself in there. Like now they have 2 people, but before it was only 1 person. So that was like scary because, when the monitor started making certain sounds, like I'm thinking this person is going to VTAC or VFib when it was just artifacts. And I was just like terrified. But I think that made me an even better monitor tech. And now, like, I don't really get terrified over anything. I feel like, there are times when we don't really know what a certain rhythm is, but I feel like, I'm more knowledgeable now where I'm able to eliminate certain things. And, if we really don't know what a rhythm is, we can always do an EKG or consult with the nurse. And sometimes the nurses aren't really trained as monitor techs, or they weren't trained for EKG analysis, so they don't really know. So in that case, you can consult with a doctor or do an EKG when everyone's just confused. Let's put our leads on. Looks perfect, right?
Yeah. Then you want to pull up on the computer so you can see the flat line.
Yes, okay, so I'm going to pull up this rhythm. So this is now our patient with the heart monitor on. Okay, so our patient has a flat line. I thought this one had a heart, Mitchell. Okay, so I would really love to show you guys what the monitor room is like, but it's kind of hard to do one of those videos where I'm showing you guys everything because there's like so much patient care information, so I can't really do that. But the room is set up where there are 8 monitors. So I have 4 on my side and the other person has 4 on their side. So we're watching up to 60 patients each. And if that person goes on break, I'm going to be watching their patients. But if you're not comfortable and you feel like that's too many patients for you to watch, you can always have the nurse come in and give you a break. So, you do have that option. But for the most part, we're so used to these monitors and watching patients that we can watch a lot of patients at once. When that other person leaves, it's not really hard for us to watch the other side, and I think that comes with experience. So as far as the pay goes, as a monitor tech, you get paid, I think, around between $11 and $13 here. You don't get paid as much as the patient care techs. Of course, with more experience, you'll get paid more money. But for the most part, they start them off between $11 and $13. I'm not exactly sure, but I know it's not more than the patient care techs. And I think, a lot of people, when they're going through the hiring process, a lot of people pull out at the last minute, because of the pay. I think they expect to get paid more, but it's not a really high-paying job. I think this is like one of those secret inside jobs that you never really hear about. And, most people that I work with were trained on the job. or they have some experience in like cardiology. So for example, like for me, I took a 4-week course at my job. So since I'm a flow tech, they want to be able to float me in there. So I took the course. I'm really happy that I took the course, by the way. And it was like a 4-week course, and we learned the heart rhythms, and then we trained in the monitor room for a couple of weeks, and then I was by myself. Of course, like I said earlier, initially I was like terrified, but now it's like second nature to me. Like this job is not hard at all. And I think it's like one of those jobs where you have to like know someone or have some kind of connection most of the time to actually get the job. It's probably one of those jobs that they post on the job board, but they probably give it to someone on the inside that did some kind of training to get the job. Other people that work in there that I know, like one person's a paramedic. Like he has experience in cardiology. All he has to do is like take an exam and pass it. Someone else, they have some kind of cardiac background. I'm really not sure what it is. If I find out, I'll put it down below. But they have like some kind of cardiac background. And really, like if you have a cardiac background where you're dealing with heart rhythms and you can pass that test, then most likely you can get the job. But like I said earlier, it is like one of those internal jobs that they train people for. Alright, you guys, so on break now. I didn't bring anything to eat because I gained like 5 pounds on vacation and I need to lose that ASAP. So yeah, this is my lunch. I think one of the most annoying things about being a monitor tech is that sometimes when you call the nurses, they don't pick up. And if it's something critical, it's like scary because sometimes you can't see that the nurse is in the room. Like, we do have cameras, so sometimes we can look in the room to see if there's like a nurse there. But not every room has cameras, so you don't know if the nurse is in there, and then they won't answer their phone, and then you're like sitting there freaking out because this patient could be dying, and then you can't reach the nurse. So that could be frustrating at times. And I know some hospitals, like if the nurses don't pick up when you call, they automatically call a code. We don't do that here, but maybe they should, so that way they'll make sure that they pick the phone up when you call. In addition to the nurses not picking up, what can be challenging is when you call them and they get really angry with you. Some people get really frustrated when you call them over and over again. But if you have to call them a million times, call them a million times, because if it happens where something important happens and you don't call them, they get very, very upset, okay? And it's all on you if something happens and you fail to call them. So I always say it doesn't matter if people get mad, still do your job, do what you have to do. If you need to call them, call them. And I wouldn't call them just to be annoying. When you get a call from me, that means that something is going on. So I just learned to not take things so personal. Like if they give me an attitude, I'm just like, okay, yeah, but this is going on with your patient. I just learned not to take it personal and just to brush it off. And I think that's like a really big skill that you need to learn in healthcare, is not to let someone else's actions affect you. And if you have to give attitude right back, go ahead and do that. But for the most part, like when it comes to me, I try just not to take it personal. Another challenge, especially if you work at night, is making sure that you don't fall asleep. Sometimes when you're just there staring at the monitors, it's really not that hard to fall asleep. You know, at this point I'm used to it, so I don't really fall asleep at night anymore, but for those people that aren't used to it, or those people that easily fall asleep at nighttime, that can happen, you know. And the good thing about it is you have two people in the room, like, you know, so if someone is really tired and they're like falling asleep, I can always like nudge them and, you know, wake them up. Or, you know, if I'm like really tired that day and I start nodding off, there's that other person that's like, hello, wake up. So that's a good thing. But I know some hospitals have only one monitor tech for a floor, and you know, so it's challenging for that person to stay awake because, you know, there's not that other person saying, hey, get up. So definitely like falling asleep is something that happens when you're a monitor tech. Another challenge of being a monitor tech is that when you have to use the bathroom, like if you're the only monitor tech in the room and you don't have like a partner there with you, if you have to use the bathroom, it could be very frustrating, you know, when you're calling the nurses and they are busy doing other stuff and they can't give you a break. So if you have a weak bladder and you're the only monitor tech, you may want to like talk to them about that ahead of time, because there will be times when you're hungry or you want to like go on break or use the bathroom and no one wants to come relieve you. So another challenge of being a monitor tech is multitasking. So when I was the only monitor tech, like now they have like a central monitor room where it's just all about monitors. But before, you know, we would be on the actual floor and we would have to answer the phone. Like we're basically secretary and monitor tech at the same time. So we're answering phones, transferring phone calls, making charts, breaking them down, and doing all this extra stuff while watching the monitor. And I think that was very dangerous because, you know, there are times when you could easily miss something because you're doing a million other things. So, you know, those monitor techs that always also have to be secretary, you know, I know that sometimes like they get very frustrated because they're trying to like do a million things at once, and you know that could really be a negative thing for the patient, and that can be like a really a major patient safety issue. Another thing that can happen if you're blind like me, you can damage your eyes. You know, like you could definitely damage your eyes looking at a monitor for 12 hours every day or a couple of times a week. Luckily, I'm not in there every single day, but I'm pretty sure I'm getting blinder as we speak from being in this monitor room. Okay, so another side effect of being a monitor tech is experiencing alarm fatigue. So that's basically when you just keep hearing alarms like the whole night, and then when you go home, sometimes you'll even hear the alarms at home. So that's happened to me, you know, numerous times. Like usually when I'm in the room, I kind of tune the alarms out. Not tune it out where I'm not like actively listening for stuff, but I mean I'm in there 12 hours, so I kind of tune out the little sounds because the monitors are constantly making sounds. So you can definitely experience some alarm fatigue as a monitor tech. As a flow tech, you know, sometimes I like going into the monitor room because it gives me a break off the floor. You know, when you work on the floor all the time and then you get to go in the monitor room, it's not so bad because, you know, you don't have to be on the floor. So that's why I like it. And, you know, I really think that I'm able to learn a lot about, you know, heart rhythms and, you know, cardiology just from being in there. You know, I feel like I learn something new every single day. You can never know too much, and I learn a lot from my coworkers, and they learn a lot from me. So I think just being in there with two people is better because it's like a learning experience for everyone. So if you're doing nursing or you want to become a PA or a doctor, this is a great place to start, as a job because you get to learn a lot about cardiology. If you are one of those people that want to get into cardiology, maybe do monitor tech on the side or become a flow tech and, flow to the monitor room sometimes because I feel like I've learned so much. And initially it seemed very hard, learning these heart rhythms, but it's really not hard at all. And I feel like it taught me to challenge myself more. And when things seem really hard, just go for it anyways, because when you overcome these things, you learn so much about yourself, and then you realize it's not as hard as you thought it was. So I definitely learn a lot. As I said, I learn something new every single day, when I'm doing this job, and I learn a lot from other people, like my coworkers, and a lot of times I'll look stuff up online. So, it's a job that you can learn a lot from. Alright, you guys, so my break is officially over, which means that this video is also officially over. So hopefully you learn what it's like to be a monitor tech. I told you guys all about, my duties and the pros and the cons, but if you have any more questions on this job, please put it below. And also I'm going to put some helpful links. I'm going to show you guys the links that to the websites that help me become very proficient in reading EKGs. Okay, so make sure you check that out, and if you have any suggestions on videos I should do in the future or any questions, please put that below, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.